Hey everyone, I got tired of the bottom bracket creaking, so after doing everything else and nothing working, I finally found something that did. Follow along, I'll show you how I did it. I start by measuring in between the lower bottom bracket and the sprocket and come up with 17.4 mils for a reference. Then I begin by moving the drive crank off with an 8mm Allen wrench and a piece of pipe for leverage. This helps to get the bottom bolt broken easily. The Allen head is unthreaded along with the drive side crank, and the crank set aside. And the non-drive side crank is pulled out. And the bearings are wiped down of any grease and debris. Now, we'll use a bottom bracket removal tool, which inserts into the frame and into a collar so that we can hammer out the bearings. I use a dead blow hammer and tap on each collar for each bearing until both are removed. The stock collar that sits in between the two bearing cups is removed, and then I take a look inside the frame to make certain there's nothing in the way for the BBInfinite sleeve. I do note a sharp lip on the drive side for the carbon fiber sleeve, which I'll file down, that way the sleeve doesn't get caught on it when we're installing it. We need a smooth edge, so it's filed all the way around until it's smooth on the inside with a nice rolled over lip. I use some rubbing alcohol to clean out the bearing cups on both sides. And now we can get ready to install the sleeve itself. The bottom bracket comes with two tools. One inserts into the end of the bearing, and the other one goes on the frame, and we'll use that one later. So we start by hand to get the sleeve installed into the frame squarely as possible. Then we insert our bottom bracket tool and rod and collar on the opposite side. And rotate it down until the sleeve gets past the first cup in the frame. The bottom bracket tool is unthreaded and slid out of the way so that we can push the sleeve into the frame cup on the opposite side. We want to make sure that we're not catching the frame or that lip that we filed down earlier. Then we install the BBInfinite cup on the opposite side of the frame, our all-thread rod, collar, and we start to thread the tool down so that the sleeve gets pressed into the frame on both sides. And we want to make sure that we leave a small lip for the compound that we're going to put on in a moment. BBInfinite includes a retaining compound that we apply to the outer lip on one side and the inner lip on the other side of the frame. And we make certain it's spread evenly around both surfaces. Then, with the BBInfinite collar in place, we put our bottom bracket installation set back into the frame and start threading down, and this is where the fun part happens. As we thread, we'll hear the sleeve pop as it sets into place on both sides of the frame. We're not cranking this down with all of our might. We just want to get the outside cup of the sleeve flush with the frame. And once it is, The bottom bracket tool is removed, and we can see that the BBInfinite sleeve is flush with the edge of our frame. And now we can get to cleaning up and installing our crankset. We start by applying a light coat of grease to the dust shield, and we set it in place over the bearing. We follow that with a 5.8 millimeter collar, which inserts into the frame on the non-drive side. Then we grease up our crank spindle slightly on both bearing surfaces and insert it into the frame. On the drive side, again, we lightly grease one of the dust covers, slide it in place, and follow it with a 0.9 millimeter collar, which slides over the spindle and into the bearing. The drive crank set in place, and the bolts threaded in to get it started. The bolts snug down, and then torqued to spec. Like my old bodyboarding days, we spin it to win it, and then we'll check the back spacing, which comes out at 17.6, so very close to our original measurement. We can put our chain back on, and with that, we're ready to ride.
And this is where we started.
Before, at the bottom of each pedal stroke, I'd have a creak, and now even riding a wheelie, they got virtually no sound, so we're good to go. Here's some of the tools I used, or rather, all the tools I used. Of course, your bike is going to vary, but gives you an idea what you're going to need. Thanks for watching. Take care. Ride safe.